All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am one of your co-hosts, Damon Pistolka, and that pretty gentleman right over there is Kurt Anderson. We have an exciting show for you today. We are going to be discussing the book Ordinary Resilience with Luis Velasquez. Man, am I excited, Kurt. You?
Dude, I've been I haven't slept all week for this one. So this is
telling you.
This is going to be fire. All right, let's dive in. So we have Dr. Luis in the house. Dr. Luis, how are you, my friend?
I'm Luis to you, Kurt.
Hey, I'm trying to, my mom told me to go formal today. So that's, hey, Luis, how are you, buddy? What's happening, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Well, hey, and Luis, you do need to become a better judge of character, because if I can count correctly, this is at least your third time that I can think of. So welcome back. Appreciate you, man. You've become such a huge influence, mentor. Just, I look up to you like you can't imagine. Great father, wonderful businessman, great husband. Iron sharpens iron. It's just such a privilege being in your circle. And now on top of it, we're going to add to your title, author. So, dude, congratulations. You got the book right over your shoulder. I have your book right on my Kindle, and I've been diving right in. It is a phenomenal read. We're going to dive deep. But before we go there, Luis, let's just share a little bit on your background, and I know you're a very modest guy. Couple PhDs in your background. Who's Luis? Give us a little background, and we're going to dive into your book.
Who is Luis? Luis is a resilient mofo.
He is a resilient mofo. I love that. Absolutely love it.
Now you asked me about the PhDs and the school. Those are the things that I've done. Mm-hmm. But those things don't define me. What defines me is who I am, and who I am is I'm considering myself a resilient individual. Yeah. And what that means to me is that I am committed, I am persistent, and I am optimistic.
Well, those three definitely fit you, and so we have a ton to cover, man. I'm going to dive into. We've got some. Hey, Damon, we got a couple people dropping notes here.
Oh, thanks. We got Sean in here this morning. Aloha, Kurt, Damon, and Dr. Louise. Looking forward to the talk. And we got Harry Flares in here today. Harry, great seeing you again. Happy Friday. We're here and rolling.
Yeah, Harry, you're going to love this conversation. Yeah. Sean, thank you for joining us. You're out there. Drop us a note. Let us know you're there. Do yourself a favor. Connect with Luis on LinkedIn. He's promoting a new book. It is phenomenal. Kindle version is out on Amazon. I have the link in the chat box. Grab that book. Do yourself a favor. You're going to love this book. Luis, let's just dive right in, my friend. So let's go back in time a little bit. So I think I've asked you before when you're on the show, who was your hero? Now, we've talked a little bit about your dad on the show and in the past. You open up the book, and not to give away the book, but you talk about your dad in the book. Please share a little bit about your family, your father. How did he kind of help you lay the foundation for resiliency?
Yeah, so a little bit of background. I grew up in Guatemala, Central America, and I think that some of your listeners already know this story, but so I feel a little bit bad repeating it. But
we've got new folks, man. That was over a year ago, so let's hear that story again.
I'm gonna continue. So I grew up in Guatemala, Central America, in a time where there was a lot of political violence. The Cold War wasn't fought in the United States and Russia. It was fought in Central America and Latin America. So we were, we were in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. Also grew up very poor. Literally dirt poor. Sometimes the question wasn't, what are we going to have for breakfast? The question was, are we going to have breakfast today? Mm-hmm. My dad was a truck driver, so he was, he will go on days at a time, to get some stuff for the store for his father. And my mom became a seamstress, so she will make, dresses for people, and she will charge 50 cents for a dress at that time. It's ridiculous. So anyway, when I tell people about this, how I grew up, I say, wow, you're so strong. How do you do that? And I remember it's like, I had the best childhood. It was a very happy childhood. It was, yes, now that I remember all the hardships because I see them from a different perspective. But when I was living that, it was like, oh my God, this is the way everybody lives, and I'm okay with that. It was very interesting because I didn't know any better. I didn't see anything beyond where I was living. Um, uh, Went to a boarding school, and I was, on a scholarship, and I was one Friday, my two of my aunts came and told me that my dad had an accident. And I was like, oh, okay, it's an accident, but I didn't understand the magnitude of the accident. So he was in a truck, and the truck lost in the middle of the night, and the truck lost the electrical system, so the lights went off, and then he crashed, and he was ejected from the truck. At that time, seatbelts were a suggestion. Like, nobody wore seatbelts at that time. So he was ejected, and the part of the truck landed on his leg, so it completely disabled him for a few years. When he came back, he was able to talk. I remember I wasn't. I remember the a few things that he said. Like he said, I'm gonna own my own business. I am going to, I'm gonna be successful, and I'm gonna send you to the university. And started making some plans. And my mom and I were like, you couldn't do that when you were healthy. How are you gonna do now that you're like freaking, like disabled and so forth? And long story short, for some reason, he did it. He came back. He started. His first business was a table, a knife, and 2 whole chickens. And he cut the chickens up and sold them by the pound. And then all of a sudden, people started coming more for chickens. And then my grandfather gave him a little, room in his store. And then he started growing up. From there, man, he just grew so much. And just to give you an example of the level of buying power that he's now have, when I was growing up, I asked him for a bike, and he couldn't afford it. When my youngest sister went to college, he bought her a brand new car and a house. So it's completely different. But anyway, so when I was going through my own stuff, I had a brain tumor, losing my identity as a professor, and losing my marriage, and I was in a very dark place. I realized that I had a good example, on my dad. And that was the genesis of, if my dad did it, I can do that too.
Yeah. All right. I love that story. Absolutely love that. And just share a little bit about Dad's business, like how did it grow from 2 chickens? Like, can you take us some steps there for entrepreneurs out there? Maybe Damon, I was just on a call with a dear friend of ours this morning, and she sent me a note earlier this week, like, my business is struggling. What do I do? Luis, just take us a little bit of, like, how did Dad go from 2 chickens to buying your sister a car and house and sent you to college? Like, walk us through that.
I think that it was, number one, it was and this is very similar. This is adds to the concept of the book, and on the pillars of the book, and we actually are happening. To happen to me too. And number one pillar is embrace the suck. Embrace where we are. Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, we wish we were selling more. We wish we were doing more. We wish we had that. And the reality is that we are where we are because that's where we are. There is no point of changing. There's no point of acting differently right now. You see what I'm saying? And I think that, my dad's journey wasn't easy, and it wasn't short. It was long. You see what I'm saying? So when he made the decision and started his little 2 tables with 2 chickens, he knew that that's what he needed to do at that time. But he didn't want to stay there. He wanted to expand. He wanted to do that. So the question that he asked himself, and I ask myself, and I ask people all the time, is what can you do today? So 2 years from now, this crisis that you're having right now, you can say that is the best thing that happened to you.
Yeah.
So he started, and then so the next step, I think that he started to do more and to expand the business. Knowing that there was a point where he couldn't do it by himself anymore.
Yeah.
So then he started getting people on, getting people on board. First my cousin, and then a brother, and then realized that working with family is not a good thing. but so I think that number one is that he set up a process and a system of what he was his product, and then after that he started to scale up. And the one thing that I realized is that my dad built his business on relationships. Just like the second part of the book, another pillar of the book is take care of your relationships. And sometimes we see, people see customers as customers, and I think that my dad never took that approach. He also see everybody as a relationship, because people like to buy from people that they like.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then over time. There's another little story. My youngest brother was the rebel of the family. My youngest brother was there is always one. He was always in trouble. He was always trying to get into fights. He was expelled of school, a couple of schools, and then one day he told my dad, I want to go to the States. I want to go to the States. I want to go to the United States. And my dad says, so what are you going to go to there? I say, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Another time, I'm getting a visa to come here is impossible. So he was thinking about coming illegal, and my dad said, okay, if that's what you want to do, just go do it. How much you need? What do you need? And he helped him. He gave him, I don't know, the equivalent of at that time was maybe like $500. And my brother decided to come to the United States. He went, and then 2 days later he came back. And he said, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go. And then my dad told him, so what do you want to do? I said, you cannot just go back. And, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I want to work with you. I said, okay, here is a truck, here is a route. Go do it. And that is another element of that what my dad did, is that he believed in the people that work for him. He never micromanaged them, but he actually just say, this is the goal and go do it. And my dad and my brother became just as successful as he is. He never went to college, but I think that from all the brothers, he's the most successful economically.
Oh, is he really?
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh yeah. It's but yeah. So that's, I don't know if that answers. I've been.
Oh, it did. That was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And Damon, we've got a couple more friends.
Yeah, we do. We got Aria here saying happy Friday. Great to see
Aria.
you. And then we got Melissa.
Dr. Melissa's here. So happy Friday. So, all right, inspiring words for sure. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Aria, for joining us here today. If you're just catching us, we're here with Luis Velasquez, dear friend, huge inspiration, new book, just came out this week, Ordinary Resilience. Strongly encourage you to grab this book. And man, I mean, just to get a slice of Luis. So Luis, if you're comfortable going here, you are a warrior, you are a conqueror, you are an incredible inspiration. Can you please share? You had a minor little health scare a number of years ago. Can you please enlighten folks? What news I think a doctor gave you some news years ago. What was that news?
Yeah. So so I was working at Michigan State University at that time. I was an assistant professor of fungal genetics, and I thought that I had it all made. All I need to do is to publish a few papers and get my tenure, and everything will be, wonderful. Yeah. And things happen. Sometimes we cannot control, what's happening to you. And I was losing my hearing. And my wife will say, you have selective hearing. You don't listen to me. And the reality is that I sometimes I couldn't hear her. So we went to see a doctor, and then they did an MRI, and they found a tumor. And I was like, oh my gosh, a tumor. And then, long story short, after, came back from the surgery and everything else, I survived the tumor, but neither my professional dreams nor my marriage survived.
So Luis, let's back up 1 second, because I'd love to share. So when you you get the news. Okay. So you have a hearing thing.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, so the doctor kind of brushed it off and he was like, come back later, come back in a month. Can you just share a little bit on, because this is a great story on persistence. And then I'd love to hear what you did the day that you received the news. Can you share that real quick?
Yeah. So what happened is, so I went to the ENT because it was a hearing issue. At that time we had no idea that it was a brain issue. It was a hearing issue, a ear doctor. And but before that, the night before, Sarah, which is my ex-wife, and I started to do some research about, what are the possible, why a person could, lose a hearing. And there were, few, if you have a loud noise, if you are exposed to, a noisy environment,
Mm-hmm.
and a few, and we were started to discounting that, no, this is not happening, and there was one, there is a tumor, and I'm like, I don't think so, but okay. So we had that information coming in with the doctor, and the doctor, the ENT, and he made a test, and he said, your hearing is compromised, and he asked us some questions. He never asked us about headaches or anything that related to the tumor, and I had them, I just didn't realize that they were connected. And then he said, come back in, in 6 months and we will monitor. And at that moment, as we were about to walk out, and then I remember this very, very vividly. My ex-wife, my wife, stopped, dead cold in the door, and she turned around and she said, we want an MRI. And if you cannot order it, we will find someone that will. And the doctor is like, what? I said, yeah, we want an MRI. So then, basically we persisted and we actually threatened him to go somewhere else, So he ordered an MRI. And I think that was on Monday, Monday. And the MRI was scheduled for Friday. So I went Friday morning to get the MRI, and then on Friday afternoon, I was getting ready for a run, like a quick run, when the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and it was the doctor, and I'm like, why is the doctor calling me? Like, what the hell?
Like Friday night at 5 o'clock, right?
Doctor called you at the house, after hours.
Yeah.
And then he told me, that, he said, I don't remember exact words, but he said the mass on the brain. And I went just blank, I went like, oh my gosh, and then my wife saw me, and she said, what's happening? And she came and he hit the speakerphone, hit the speaker of the phone. And she demanded to know what was going on. And the doctor said, that, he found a mass in the brain. And then that he already scheduled an appointment for me on Monday morning with a neurosurgeon. And at that moment, it's like, holy crap, not only he called me now, he already scheduled an appointment with the neurosurgeon for Monday. This must be really bad. This must be horrible. And I, I remember, it was very emotional. My wife collapsed and started crying, and I was like, oh, what the hell, And so then I decided, I'm just gonna go for my run. I need to cool down. And during that run, I was like, I started, thinking and literally I was crying on the way in my run, thinking, am I gonna die? When am I gonna be buried? Here and there. And I remember there was a postdoc also in our lab who had cancer and a brain tumor actually, and then he died. And he came to visit the lab a few months before he died, and he was so thin. And it was a shadow of the man that he was. And I was thinking, is that my future?
Yeah.
So, but I just kept running. But then I realized, growing up, my dad always tells me, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? Anything that was coming in our ways, well, what are we going to do about this? And at that moment, I realized that that's how I react to things. Okay, so now I have this, thing. What am I going to do about this? And at that moment, I made a commitment. I'm gonna fight this. I don't care what's happening. I am going to do whatever I can in order to, not to get better, but to fight it. And when I came back from the run, my mind had been already set. And I said, like, I don't care about the outcome. I'm just going to do the best I can. And I think that was a pivotal moment for me, is when I made the decision to do what I could, not to control the tumor, but also to do what I could that was in my control.
Right. And that is just such a powerful statement right there. Just kind of take that in. Damon, think about it. You Friday night, 5:00, you get a phone call. It's not somebody from the doctor's office. It's the doctor. And Luis, I have news, and drops that news on you. Oh, and by the way, Monday morning, this is where you need to be. So, and so what would most people do? Well, of course you go out for a run, right?
Yeah.
And how admirable, Luis, that you come in, you take in a horrible situation and you decide, like, hey, I have two choices, right? Either I can just wallow in this, or I'm just going to give it everything I've got. And so again, if you're just joining us, we're here with Luis Velasquez. Just came out with a brand new book. It's Ordinary Resilience. You want to jump. I have the link in the chat. Go to Amazon, grab the Kindle version. It's out. He's got a special price for our friends here today. Or if you want to grab your hard copy or your paperback, you can go out and do that as well. Luis, if I could jump ahead, can you share? You were in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. Were you going through some surgery? There was like maybe the Chicago Marathon. Is there a story there that you want to share?
Yeah, so I was, the news of the tumor came on, Friday, right? On Monday, I had an appointment with the surgeon, with the neurosurgeon, and the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we were planning to go to Chicago to a wedding of a friend's, my wife's friend, and she was a maid of honor. She was there. She was in there. So it's like, okay, what do we do? And so you know what? If we stay here, it's gonna be brutal. But might as well go and enjoy the weekend. So we went, and so the wedding was fabulous. The wedding, that's amazing. It was a wedding in a boat, and then we tried to make the best out of it. The following day was Sunday, and Sunday. At that particular moment was the day of the Chicago Marathon. That was, and then I said, let's go check it. Let's go see it. Let's go look at it. So we went to see the Chicago Marathon there, and we didn't see the elites because we got there late. Yeah. So by the time we got there, they were already having breakfast in an airplane back home. But we started seeing all the people basically in the back, the people, and a lot of them had little signs in the back, like brain tumor survivor, cancer survivor, domestic survivor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this. I said, I'm gonna do this. And my wife says, what are you thinking? You don't know if you're gonna be alive next year or what. And I said, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this next year, and you're gonna do it with me. And we made a commitment that moment. It's like, okay, let's do that. That's it. So during that was the genesis. I said, I'm gonna do this. And again, going back to to what we were sharing earlier, is to make the decision first. You make the decision, you make the commitment, and if you're committed, then you start doing the work. Even though it is hard, you're gonna do it because you already made a commitment. And so when I went through the Monday morning, I went and I saw this neurosurgeon. And long story short, I got the brain surgery. When I was going back into my therapy, I call it my marathon training.
So, all right, just let everybody let that sink in for a minute, Damon. And so, Luis, you told me that we were together for a weekend back in the fall, and his cancer treatment was not cancer treatment; it was his marathon training as he's recovering from a brain tumor being removed. So, Luis, please continue.
Yep. So that was it, it was hard, as you can imagine. It was frustrating, it was horrible. But exactly a year later, my ex-wife and I were running the Chicago Marathon, and I finished in 5 hours and 40 minutes, and that was a pivotal moment for me, because after that it was a slippery slope, and from then on I have run over 100 marathons and a bunch of other things. But yeah, so but I don't want to make this just about me.
Yeah, we'll change gears. I had to, but Damon, we've got some comments here.
Yeah, we're gonna start here. We got Sean saying, "Hey, super inspiring, Dr. Luis." We got Devaya in here from India. Thanks for being here today. And then Sean says, "Definitely picking up ordinary resilience after hearing this much of the story." We got Alawasi here again. He was here last week, I believe. Hey, everyone, I'm glad to be here among you all. Blessings always. It's awesome. It's awesome. We got Harry dropping a question for us, though. Luis, you seem like a very empathetic human being. Did overcoming your health crisis aid in developing your empathy when communicating with others and developing new leaders? So, do you think that helped you overcoming what you had to do?
Yeah, and I think that, let me see, how can I answer this?
He didn't know he was going to be put on the spot today.
No, I'm just trying to. So, when my little girl was, I don't know, a month old, a few months old, my wife and I will fight over who's going to change the diaper. Because I want to change the diaper, and we were happy changing the diaper. And I think that it wasn't like that. I hated, oh my God, it's my turn to change the diaper. Oh my God, And going to that question, and I think that a lot of times what I do is I reframe things, and changing the diaper for me is a privilege. Oh my God, I can get to do this, because I realize that many fathers cannot do that, because they were probably like my dad, working,
Yep.
a long time. So to me, the empathy comes from a place where I have so much privilege, and it is raining. Oh my gosh, it is raining. I cannot do that. I have the choice to stay here. I can't just say no getting wet. I am stuck in traffic. Oh my gosh, I get to spend some time with, listening to podcasts or talking to my friends over the phone. So I think that for me, the empathy is to realize that there are so many other people that have it worse than I do, and I have so much privilege of doing what I do. But the question is, did the brain tumor allow me to be more empathetic? I don't think that it did in terms of feeling the empathy, but it just gives me a completely different lens of what it is to be in a situation like that.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is just a whole new appreciation of gratitude and just like the little things, right? Like, what a privilege to change my daughter's diaper. It's just what a spin, and bad news. I have a couple of choices. I can wallow, feel sorry for myself, or go to Chicago for a wedding and then decide like, hey, we're going to run this marathon a year from now. And again, Luis, I know you hate the attention. That's just the man you are, and just the humility that you possess. But I just want everybody just to get an understanding of who you are, and strongly encourage everyone. Grab Luis has a brand new book. It's right over his shoulder. Ordinary Resilience. It's a great book. Damon, a couple more comments, and then I've got a couple. We're going to dive into we're going to talk some more about the book here. But
yeah, we've got Dasha. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name.
Dasharath.
Great Luis. And then Alawas said, when people suffer life-threatening conditions, it tends to positively impact their perspective on life.
Yep.
And that's a big deal. When you talk to people that this happens, like yourself, Luis, they, as Kurt says, they either wallow in it, shrivel up, or they reframe it and use it.
Right.
Or can I say something about that?
Yeah.
And I think that is a lot of times the assumption that we make is that we need to have a life-threatening experience or a hard time for us to change our perception and change the things. And I'm going to tell you a little story. And I think that I teach a class at Stanford University called Interpersonal Dynamics. And in my class there was this very successful woman, amazing person, and she was so passionate about diversity and inclusion. You know, she had a nonprofit of diversity and inclusion. She was an author of diversity, incredible. And I asked her, you know, one day, and I said, you know, where does this passion come from? You know, what happened to you that this passion, you know, that you're so passionate about this issue? And she said, you know, she said to me, you know, well, to the class, because this was in the class, and she said, Luis, you know, I grew up in the Midwest. I am the daughter of two Christian white, you know, individuals. I am a white person. I never knew many people other than the you know, people that look like me. And I went to a school in Chicago. And in Chicago, when I went to my freshman year, I was discriminated because I was white. And that made me that was my pivotal moment. And in my mind, I was thinking, that's it? That's the experience that you have that made you be successful on this? So the point that I'm trying to make at that moment is that I realized that my experience and her experience might be completely different, you know. So you don't have to go through a brain tumor or to, you know, to a whatever, you know, to become resilient and to become passionate about life and being positive. What we need to do is identify a pivotal moment that will change us. And that could be something like, man, I fell off my bike yesterday. You see what I'm saying? But just name it and use it as a pivotal moment. So the idea that resilient is something that happens because the most resilient individuals are the people that go through hard things in life. That's the one thing that I don't agree with, and that's what I call the book Ordinary Resilience, because we don't have to go through major life crises in order to become resilient individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, love it. So the perfect segue. Let's go there. Ordinary resilience. Let's talk. I'm going to be a little bit of Captain Obvious here, Luis. Why do we need resiliency? Just, you know, let's dive in. You know, why did you write the book? What sparked the passion for the book? Why Ordinary Resilience? Why do we all need to be so resilient? There's 4 questions all wrapped in one there.
I think that, you know, as humans, we're wired to try to get better all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we want to get better. We want to do better. We want to achieve big things. You know, that's what we do. You know, that's what we do. And resilience to me is the catalyst that make happen. Now, why do we need it? We don't need it. We already have it. You see what I'm saying? We already have it. We're the most resilient people, the resilient species in the world. You know, I mean, if you think about it, you know, we outran the cheetahs in Africa when, you know, the lions in Africa, and we were just beginning to, you know, to walk. So we're resilient. So it's not that you need it. You already have it. That's number one. Now, the key here is that for us to survive, adapt, and thrive, what we need to do is to unlock what we already have. And the way I describe it is that we already have everything that we need to take the first step. Everything that we need to take the first step. And sometimes that is simply making a decision and a commitment. I'm going to get better. I'm going to do X. I'm going to do that. So ordinary resilience is, the more resilient you are, the easier you will get the things that you want. So do you need it? You already have it. You're probably using it. Can you even be more, you know, successful if you are intentional about exploiting what you already have? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great answer. And so I want to slide into, all right, so we already possess it, is what you're saying, right? It's just, are we maxing it out? I was in a little bit of a dark period 6-7 months ago, Damon. I got on a call with Luis, and man, Luis, you helped me a ton. And again, you want to get a little help, grab that book, Ordinary Resilience. You talked about the word hope And man, I took a ton of notes that day. I have notes. I'll, whenever I need a little pick me up, I look at what you shared. Share a little bit on how you tie in resiliency with hope. I don't know if you remember that conversation or if this is a good question for you.
Yeah.
Take us there, would you please?
So the way I see resilience, the way I understand resilience is I have a formula for it, and the formula is commitment plus persistence times optimism. And optimism is what you and I talk Kurt, hope. So again, the resilience is made the commitment. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do X. And you freaking made the commitment. And when you made the commitment, then you start prioritizing the things that you're committed to. Yeah. And now the commitment is different from a decision. I decide to get married is different to I'm committed to my wife. It's completely different. So commitment is emotional. A commitment is something that, man, I'm gonna go there. So that's number one. The second component is persistence. And again, commitment can get you so well, but being committed won't make things happen. You still need to do the work. And being persistent plus the commitment allows you to understand that it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be a long game. To the point earlier that I was talking about it. Sometimes that what we do things that are hard, and that's okay because life is hard. When we start our journey as entrepreneurs, man, that is hard. Yes, it is hard, but we're going to do it anyway. Because when we do that, we also have the ability to choose the reward.
Yep.
Man, being an entrepreneur is hard, but being poor is also hard. You choose the reward, but you understand by being completely committed and being persistent is not the entire formula, because having those two things is a formula for burnout and disappointment, right? The formula is commitment times commitment plus persistence times optimism. Mm-hmm. The optimism is a multiplier. There is no resilience if there is no optimism. Now, how does that apply? Is that when I was thinking about it, when I was going through the to the marathon training, my goal, my hope, I want to run the marathon a year from now. Therefore, that optimism allowed me to change, to go through the hard work of training and even reframe how I was training by calling my marathon training, because I knew that I had something to do and it's going to be great at the end of the year. So a lot of times, and to tell you the truth, a lot of times those hopes are what I call moonshots, sometimes are unattainable. However, the transformation happens in the journey.
Yes.
It's not getting there to the finish line, but what have you learned during the journey? Because that journey, that end, morphs. Okay, I've run a marathon. Okay, I'm going to run 2. Hell, I'm going to do 3. I'm going to do a 50K. I'm going to do a 50 miler. I'm going to do a 100 miler. So it's a moving target, the optimism. But we need to have those 3. We need to be committed to what we want to do. We want to be, persistent, knowing that it's not easy, and having the goal of the aspirational goal that we're marching toward.
Well, Kurt, we know what this is. This is a moment of silence right here, where we just have to stop, Dr. Luis, and take in what you just said, because this is something that a lot of people don't give enough thought to, is that, if you really choose a reward that is going to be big, expecting not to have to toil and be tried and go through challenges is simply a falsity that you got to get out of your head early. But that commitment and that desire to see yourself there is what will pull you through if you let it.
Totally.
Yeah. And as Luis said earlier, Damon, embrace the suck, right?
Yeah, I love that. I've used that. It's like sometimes you just have to power through.
Right. But let's just recap that. And Luis, I'm going to go here, for dads out there, because I can't tell you how much I admire you as a dad. I feel you've completely helped me be a better dad. We're talking commitment, persistence times optimism. I know we're coming to time, and I've got a million questions I want to ask, and I want to be totally respectful of your time. Would you please, just for my sake, would you share, you have a little thing. I love hearing stories about your kids. Absolutely love hearing stories about your kid. You have a daughter, you have a son. When you drop them off at school, when they get out of the car, when you're driving, commuting with them, what are the things that you share with your kids for their day?
I want to thank you for asking that question. And, the one thing that I remember when you asked me, who are you? And I said, I am committed, persistent, and optimistic. I'm a resilient mojo. And I think that a lot of times we confuse who we are with what we do.
Yeah.
So my kids and I have a ritual every morning when I drive into school. And then we have a little rock in the car. We call it our gratitude rock. And we pass the gratitude rock, and we pass the rock around, and every time, like if I do it, I got it, I have to say, 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then I pass it to my 6-year-old and then to my 10-year-old, and they say the 3 things that they're grateful for. And then, when we finish that, and I ask them, so what kind of family are we? And they respond in unison, we are a grateful family. And then I ask them, what kind of people are we? Or what kind of kids are you? And then they respond, we are kind, strong, confident, and resilient. Those were the 4 things that I started, and now they included, we're inclusive, we're nice, we're hopeful. It's like a 3 other things, but the 3 things that the 4 things is that we're kind, strong, confident, and resilient. We've been doing this for, I don't know, for years. And just for them to have, to embrace an identity, and because that's what worked for me. And at the end of the day, some parents ask me, what do you learn today? What do you do today? My question to them when they come into the car is like, who did you help today? Who did you help today? And it's so amazing, because sometimes, they say, I want to go, because I know that they help somebody, so they do that. And so that's it. But I want to share with you something that really happened a couple of weeks ago. We went to Tahoe, and we went to this park, and they have zip lines, and there is like very high hanging bridges, so they put you in a harness and you go through the adventure there. And at the first time, we're going up there, my 6-year-old, he started to cry. He literally started, I don't want to do it. And then something clicked in his head. And then he said, I feel my fears, I'm going to do it anyway. I feel my fears, and I do it. And that was his mantra, and he did it the entire time. And I'm like, holy crap, So again, I think that this is my hope, is that they become 2 kind, confident, resilient, and strong individuals. And I hope that that's the case. But what I'm trying to do is to give them an identity that they can identify. So for instance, whenever they do something wrong, I don't tell them, don't do that or stop doing that. But I ask them, will a kind person do that?
Wow.
And they mean, no, okay, oh, I don't want to do this, it's too hard. Oh, are you resilient? And then they click, and so I don't tell them don't do that or stop doing that. I just ask that question, and it resonates in the, oh my God, this is another funny story. We were at a supermarket when my daughter was about maybe 6, I think. And I had her on the cart, and this lady said, "Oh my God, you're so cute." I said, "I'm not cute. I'm strong and confident." So yeah. So that's what I do, and it's it's my effort, let's put it that way, to hopefully I can, shape them into two kind, strong, confident, and resilient individuals.
Yeah.
I just thank you, Luis. I appreciate that. I could, as a father, just look at the confidence that you're just this habit, this positive reinforcement that you're putting into your children on a daily basis. I commend you. I just think that is so wonderful. I know we're coming into time. As we start winding down, first off, I want to strongly encourage, welcome, invite everybody out there to grab this book. I've just got it on Wednesday. I've been traveling all week. I've started digging into it. I cannot wait to get through the end. Luis, anything that you want to share for folks out there? Maybe, they're having a tough time. Like you said, maybe it's not a tragic event, but you know what? Business is down, or maybe my relationship's not going where I want it to be. Or, just it's not these awful life-changing events like you're saying, but it's just the ordinary. Any parting thoughts, any words of wisdom that you want to share of how we can really capture and embrace that ordinary resilience?
I think that what I hope that the book does, and which is also my philosophy of coaching, is that if we need to act differently, we need to think differently. And if we need to think differently, we need to see differently. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, a lot of us feel that we have no choice because we don't have options, and we do have options, And by the way, not doing anything is an option. Yeah. So if I were to, is that when you think that there is no option, there are options. When you think that, my God, there is no other way of doing it, there are other ways of doing it. And the minute you start looking for those options, you start thinking about, what can you do? And I think that when there is people that are hopeless, there is no resilience there, and being hopeless is a choice. And I think that, it's very hard to say that. It's almost harsh, but the reality is that that's what it is. And sometimes people that they don't have any hope don't see it other ways. So it's my job, and hopefully your job, and is to unlock the options that people have, and to realize and make them realize that they have options. The minute people have options, they, oh my God, they feel better about the choices that they have.
Yeah. And that's exactly the conversation we had. And you gave me an example where, you work with high level C-suite coaches, and, not to reveal anything, there's a coach and she just couldn't see a path, and, became a little bit hopeless, optionless. And all you did is you took a pivot and you said, well, did you think about this? And you gave her an alternative and another option. And all of a sudden hope appeared, because you helped her. Sometimes we get so close to it, we can't see those options. Yeah. And I think that's a superpower of yours. And that's a big, theme of the book, is like, how do you pull out those options? How do you create that hope? Always being hopeful. And how you open up is being filled with gratitude. What a great way to stay in hope. Yeah. Just being completely consumed in gratitude. So, yeah. All right. Well, I know I want to keep you for another hour, Luis. I know we've got to run. Damon, any your thoughts on this jam session today?
So many. Thank you so much. I'm not going to get in here because I know we got to get him out. He's got a meeting he needs to get to. But thank you so much, Dr. Luis. I want to thank Olu, and Dashra, Arya, Harry, Sean, everybody that's dropping comments, Devia. Everyone's dropping comments today. Thank you so much for stopping by today. But man, what a session, Kurt.
What a session. So, Luis, any parting thoughts, words of wisdom that you'd like to share with folks as we close out?
Just go break things.
How about this comment here for you, Luis? This one will make your day, right? Kurt times Damon times Luis, 3 outstanding mofos. Great show today. So inspiring. Can't wait to read your book. I love this man's energy. Simple. So again, guys, thank you. And so, hey, how about you've been hanging out with us for past however long it's been? Great opportunity. Stand up, give a little stretch, let's give a big standing ovation, a big round of applause for our dear friend, the one and only Luis. Luis, thank you. We appreciate you. We wish you monster success with this book. We can't wait to see it on the New York Times bestselling list. We appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And hey, just Damon, like we always love to say, just go out and be someone's inspiration, just like Luis was for us today, and you'll make the world a better place. So, Luis, hang out 1 second. We wish everybody an amazing, incredible weekend. Have a wonderful, if we don't see you, have a wonderful 4th of July.
Yep.
God bless you, and thank you for joining us today. Luis, thank you again, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. Thank you for the people that were commenting today. All of you that are not commenting, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you sharing this information, and connect with Luis. If you haven't, you need to do that already. We will be back again. We're taking a week off because of the holiday, but we will be back after that with more great guests and topics. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Peace.